One night, I was assigned to guard the office. My responsibilities were straightforward: to ensure that no unauthorized individuals entered the premises, although I must admit, I am not particularly physically imposing, allow entry to authorized personnel, and attend to any ceiling leaks that may occur. There were occasionally burst pipes on the second floor. Once a week, I also had to clean the interior windows. Despite these duties, the job was relatively undemanding and free of dust. There were computers with various simple games, such as Heroes of Sword and Magic, which kept me entertained. I often spent my weekends in that office, and with only the director, a manager, and myself possessing keys, everything was always peaceful and quiet. The main purpose of my presence was to serve as a deterrent, as even a police officer would struggle to stop an intruder who managed to break through the impregnable iron door at night. On a Saturday, I was engrossed in playing Heroes when I heard a rustling noise from the other side of the door. I approached it and peered through the peephole, but nobody was there. Assuming that whoever it was had walked away, I returned to my game. However, the rustling sound resumed soon after, accompanied by an unintelligible male voice and a knock on the door. Assuming it was the boss, I unlocked the door and looked through the peephole again, only to find nobody there. I called out, "Who's there?" but received no response. I locked the door again, but this time I heard a woman's voice on the other side of the door. Unfortunately, her speech was incomprehensible, consisting of meaningless syllables strung together. Frustrated, I threatened to call the police, even though there were no phones inside. I was unsure if there was a button to summon the fire brigade. The woman's voice fell silent, but I heard a gentle knocking on the window. I opened the blinds and was stunned by what I saw. It was no hallucination. I was utterly terrified. My legs gave way, and I collapsed onto the floor. There was a figure, if you could even call it that, suspended from the bars. Every aspect of it was entirely unnatural, as though someone had fashioned a costume based on their understanding of human appearance gleaned solely from movies. I couldn't even discern its gender. As soon as it caught sight of me, it began to speak, alternating between the female and male voices before devolving into a cacophony of creaking and rustling sounds, as if coming from multiple sources. Its facial expressions were entirely otherworldly, with all its facial muscles contorting in every conceivable direction. It was dragging its arms and legs across the glass while also ascending, perhaps clamping onto the bars with its knees and hauling itself upward. At that moment, it appeared to be taking flight. The image was crystal clear, and it hung suspended for what seemed like an eternity. At least a minute. I was entirely paralyzed, rooted to the spot as I gazed up at the entity. After what felt like an eternity, there was a sudden cessation of all noise. The entity pivoted abruptly, even twisting its head unnaturally to stare behind itself for a few moments before leaping down and departing, now speaking in a new, low-pitched voice. I couldn't tell where it had gone, as I was still on the floor, too petrified to move. All I managed to do was pull the blinds shut and crawl into a room that lacked any doors or windows. There, I collapsed, weeping uncontrollably, like a young child. I couldn't recall the last time I had cried so hard, at least not since 8 years prior. Eventually, the tears subsided, but I remained trembling with fear, sitting motionless on the floor until 6 a.m. when Artyom, the shift man, arrived. When I peered through the peephole and saw him, I asked him to step back and say something, holding my breath in terror. Eventually, I allowed him to enter, and he greeted me with a friendly headbutt, which made me burst into happy and uncontrollable laughter, causing tears to stream down my face. When I returned home, my parents were perplexed by my appearance. My complexion was pallid, I had dark circles under my eyes, and I had lost 7 pounds overnight. Ever since that incident, I have been experiencing poor sleep quality and frequent nightmares. I have kept this experience to myself, fearing that others might ridicule me if I were to confide in them.